Hey there my foodies, welcome back to my channel. Let's make this delicious upside down pineapple cake for Christmas this year. So to begin my cake today, I'm going in with 2 sticks of room temperature butter. When you're making cake, you want to make sure that your butter and your eggs, and if you're adding milk, is always at room temperature. I'm going to go ahead and mix this up with my hand mixer, or cream it as we say in Guyana, until that sugar is fully dissolved. This may take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. This was a very cold day, so it took me about 20 minutes to cream this. If you're in a warmer temperature, it should take about 15 minutes depending on the type of sugar you're using. So this is what my butter and sugar is looking like after 20 minutes with the hand mixer. Everything is nice and creamed. The sugar is fully dissolved. This is where I like to go in and give one final scrape down, and I'll show you guys how light and fluffy that butter is. That is exactly what you're looking for. Now at this stage is where I like to add my eggs. Today I will be using 6 eggs for half a pound of cake. And when I add my eggs, I like to add my essence at the same time. So I'm going to go in with some vanilla essence. For this cake, you want to make sure that you add 1 egg at a time, or actually any cake that you're baking, add 1 egg at a time and make sure that it's fully mixed in until you're done with all of the eggs that you'd like to add for yours. Now that I have all of my eggs mixed in, I'm going to go in with half a cup of milk. This is optional, but it usually adds a nice little moisture effect to your cake. I'm going to stream in a little bit at a time until everything is fully mixed in. I'm done mixing all of my wet ingredients. Everything is nice and evenly whipped in. I'm going to work on my dry ingredients. Here I have 1.5 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. To this, I'm going to go in with 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of freshly grated nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and I'm just going to go in with my whisk and give this a nice mix to make sure everything is nice and evenly distributed. It's time to assemble my wet ingredients and my dry ingredients. I'm just giving my butter one final scrape down, and I'm going to go in with half of my flour at first. Give that a nice gentle fold. I don't want to do this with my hand mixer because it can overwork the flour and develop the glutens. I don't want that to happen with my cake, so I'm just going to gently fold it in until this half of flour is combined with my butter and sugar and whatnot, and then I'm going to go in there with the last half. Fold that in, and after that's completely folded in, I'm going to go in with 1 tablespoon of lemon zest, because I like to use the lemon zest to cut like any raw or rank taste from my cake, plus it just adds a nice flavor. You can also use orange zest if you like, but for this type of cake I choose to use the lemon zest. So this is what my batter is looking like after mixing it. It came together really well, and now it's time to bake my cake. And to do that, today I'm going to be using a 9-inch springform pan. I'm going to be measuring my parchment paper a little bigger than the size of my pan because I need it to come up the sides, because when this cake bakes, it's going to have the juices from the pineapple slices, and it's going to have some brown sugar sprinkled at the bottom there. So when all of that melts, it's going to become a little bit liquidy. So to make sure that it doesn't seep out in my oven, as you can see, I'm going in there with my fingers and I'm pressing it up against the edges just to try my best to seal this off. This always works best for me. You will have a drop or two come out, so what I suggest is just put a pan underneath your cake when you're baking it in the oven. I always don't need it. This time I'm going to risk it to not put anything, but this should work if you try this method. If you're nervous, just place that pan underneath and you should be good. So it's time to assemble my cake. Here I have some maraschino cherries. I have some Dole pineapple slices. Make sure that you drain both of these really well because you want to avoid as much moisture at the bottom of your cake. It can make it become soggy, and plus it can overflow and start to seep out that nice seal edge. It can do that sometimes. So I'm just gonna go in and place my pineapple slices down. Today I'm just gonna use a basic pattern and just put it around and one in the center. And I'm also gonna place my cherries in the center of the pineapple and at the outer edges where they have that little space. And this is how I'm gonna do mine today. You can do yours any way that you like. You can put the pineapples up the side of the cake if you want. Just know that you're gonna need more than one tin of the slices. You're gonna need about 2 tins, and you're probably not gonna use all of it, but you're gonna need more than what I used here. So additionally to the bottom of my cake, I'm gonna go in with 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. This is optional, you don't need to do it, but I want to do it because it creates that nice like syrup for the pineapple. I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle this all over, especially where the cherry and the pine meets. Now that I have everything that I want at the bottom of my cake, I'm going in with my batter immediately. I'm just gonna go in very carefully with it because I don't want to move the cherries. The pine nut slices will not move, but the cherries can sometimes move when you're gonna smooth it out. I'm just gonna take my spatula and gently smooth everything out so it can be as even as possible on top. My cake is nice and smooth now. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my oven to bake at 350 for 1 hour. Also, I'm gonna place it on the center rack there because I don't want it to get too brown at the top too quickly. Try to check your cake to see when it's going to be done. It can be done within 50 to 60 minutes because every oven is different. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this bake and I'll show you what it's looking like when it's done. This is what my cake is looking like. It's finally out of the oven. It took exactly 60 minutes to bake. I'm gonna go ahead and do a toothpick test. As you can see, I'm putting it in multiple places just to make sure that it's well done and there's nothing coming out on the toothpick. That's a good indication that my cake is finished. I'm gonna allow this to cool down for 10 minutes and then here I'm going to be placing it on my stand and I need to take it out of my pan. I'm just gonna flip it over on a plate and you'll see exactly how easily it releases from the spring form pan. I'm just gonna move it around a little bit to make sure that I get that spring form in front of me, and I'm just gonna release it and you'll see how easily it falls out of the pan. I'm just trying to be very gentle here because the cake is actually still decently hot at the bottom, so I don't want to rip it, which is why I'm taking my time so slowly to remove the parchment paper that I would have placed at the bottom. I'd suggest that if you're going to make this recipe, be very gentle with it at this moment because you want to make sure that you don't break the structure of the cake. You can take the risk of allowing this to cool down, but I usually remove it at this point in time because that sugar that I would have added might start to crystallize when it gets cold. So I don't want to take the chance of it getting too hard, and then when I'm going to take off the parchment paper, it might start to tear even more and start to crack the cake. Here's where I'm going to allow my cake to cool down completely before I cut into it. So it's time to take a slice out of this cake. It's fully cooled down. I'd suggest that you wait for yours to cool down as well so you can get as a clean slice as possible. I'm just going in there and making sure that I cut really clean because I don't want to break up the pineapples. This is what a slice of the upside down pineapple cake is looking like. It looks so good. It baked up so well. The sponge is so moist and soft. I'm gonna go ahead and put this piece on a plate and then we'll take a fork and dig into it. As you guys can see, I'm going in with my fork there. This cake is so moist and it's so soft. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. I hope you give it a try for the holidays. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you enjoy my content. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.